Hi guys, Lori here. I'm back. My voice is actually a lot better, which is why I've been filming again this week, and this past month has been a little bit chaotic, I'll be honest. But let's focus on happy thoughts, positive things, like the books that I've been reading. So this video is going to focus on the top 10 authors that I have been exposed to in 2020 that I'm going to read more of. And yeah, I started doing this last year, and I just started it so late in the year that I kind of never got around to doing it. Um, so I'm going to try to do it like every 2 months. So this will be up to like the middle of March because that's where we are in like the calendar year. But let's get into it. Actually, the first author that I read in the year is one of the authors on this list, and that is Julie Buxbaum. I literally just finished A Mission, which is a book by her that comes out in May. But I really enjoy her books. This book was like a little bit of a different read, but they're contemporary books. Most of them deal with romance and friendship and harder topics. I like her writing style. I like how she structures her books. Every book has like a very interesting structural element. The first book, it was letters or emails. The second book, it was a notebook. This book is like told from now, past and present. But I really enjoyed them. I think my favorite book by her was the first one I read, What to Say Next. This one, the concept was the most interesting. I really did like the concept. This is from the headlines books about a college admission scandal. But I really like her writing style. They're very, very quick, and I like how they really focus. Romance is a part of her book, so it's not the mainstay, but it really does focus on self-discovery and dealing with your life. And I really, really like that. So she's the first author to make this list. About Julie Buxbaum, I still have to read Love and Other Punchlines, which is her book inspired by 9/11, which is something that I've lived through, and I'm really curious to see how that book fares. But that's the only book of hers that I have not read, and I will definitely hope to get to it at some point in 2020. Another author that I wanted to add to this list was L.B. Elpstone, who wrote Casper, Talk, and the Everdark Wings, which is part of the Unmapped Chronicle series. This was another book that took me by surprise. I picked it up at New York City Comic Con. I got an early arc of it, and I really found this book to be so sweet. I've also been in the middle of a Keeper of the Lost Cities read, and anything that kind of reminds me of that, I've been really, really craving. But this follows this boy named Casper. He is afraid of everything. He does not think he's very brave. He does not think he's very, very powerful in any way. But one day he gets sucked into a fantasy world that is kind of affecting the real world with the weather patterns, and he winds up meeting a little elf, and they wind up going on an adventure to save the day. And it was just so sweet. It was one that I like flew through. The reason I don't have a copy of it is I gave it to one of my kids that I work with, one of my students, and he really, really likes it too. He's in the middle of reading it, and he's loving it. I just found it was so cute. I really flew through it. I've never read a heroine or a hero like Casper. I think he's kind of like me as a little kid, like very, very shy, very, very did not like adventure, did not like not following the rules. He reminded me of me, and just reading from his point of view was quite cute. I definitely hope we get more books in that series. Abby Elpstone does have a few books that she published previously under like a different name that I might try to see if I can read at some point. But overall, it was such a great book. Cannot wait for book 2, and that's why she made this list. The book that I'm going to chat about in this video is What I Like About You by Marissa Cantor. This is an arc that I did pick up from ALA, Midwinter, and it was just such a fun read. I love books about book lovers. I just do. I think that they're so important. And I really, really love them. But this book was one that just really, really made me smile. Like, it was one book that I just was like, oh my goodness. I thought it was just such a fun read. Marissa Cantor really understands the book community because I think she's a blogger and an Instagrammer. And I love the concept of this book so much. I loved how it dealt with a lot of like different topics and reads. It dealt with like being a bookstagrammer, being an influencer, and that side of it. But it also dealt with like being socially awkward and romance in a like almost like a You Got Mail situation. I'll talk about another You Got Mail situation later in this video. But I just thought it was so fun. I really hope she writes more contemporary books in the future because her writing style and her characters definitely captured me. And I love the structure of that book as well. And it was just really, really fun. So that was another book author that I will definitely be keeping my eyes on in the future. And this book isn't even out yet. It comes out in April. So when What I Like About You comes out, make sure you go check it out. Another early read that's not technically out yet, but I do definitely want to talk about Where Dreams Descend by Janelle Angeles. In the middle of this video because I went somewhere in between when I was filming this, so sorry. But I actually went up with 2 copies of this. I went up with an ARC that I got from New York City Comic Con and an ARC that I got from ALA. But this book was pitched to me as Moulin Rouge meets Phantom of the Opera, and I loved it. I thought it was so well done. I love the dual perspectives. I love how she creates such a lush world. I thought it was like it. I think it's definitely a first book in a series, and I think the world's just going to get more complicated and more fascinating. But I loved her lyrical style. I loved her characters. I love her point of view. I loved how she created this really fascinating world, and it was just such a fun read. I'll definitely read more in this book series in the future, and I would definitely read more by her in general because I really loved her world building. The next book I'm going to chat about is All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. This book back to back with Where Dreams Descend, and I really wound up liking this one as well. This one kind of went into my love of like underwater books. Like basically follows this girl and she's a princess, but when she winds up failing her test to become queen, she has to go on an adventure to try to get back her lineage or still become queen. I loved Adeline Grace's writing, and I thought that this book was so simple to follow, so simple to understand. Really easy plot understanding. I really love the characters. I love the world building. I love the undercover of a romance. I loved the small cast of characters that traveled a lot. I thought it was just so well done. I thought the end had some pacing issues and some confusion issues, but over than that, I would definitely read more by this author in the future, and I really am excited for book 2 for sure. The next book I'm going to chat about is a very recent read, and that is Tweet Cute, which I actually have a book of, by Emma Lord. This is a book that I wound up picking up at ALA from a friend of mine because she was wound up doing it or completed reading it, and I really, really love this book. I wound up giving this book 5 stars. I just really loved Emma Lord's writing. I thought that she took some very like typical tropes like a You Got Mail retelling or like a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and kind of spun it into this fascinating read about self-discovery, romance, and also just finding yourself. I love the structure of this read. I thought that the way this book was very, very unique in a lot of different ways, even though it kind of pulls from tropes that we've all seen before over and over and over again. I love the characters. I love the dual point of view. I'm really excited to see what she writes next. Like, I really, really love this book, and I actually might wind up keeping this one as well. But boy, was it just a cute read, and I really grew to love Piper and Jack, and I'm definitely going to read more by this author in the future. The next book I'm going to chat about is Julie C Dao, and I read her Song of a Crimson Flower, which I totally read out of order, but it was a really, really short audiobook. I think it was like a 5-hour audiobook, but I wound up actually really, really liking it, and I really liked how she really built a world with characters, and I really love them. I love the quest elements, I love the world, and I just thought it was a really, really fun quest story. She's definitely an author that I want to read more from. I do have 2 books from her that I still haven't read yet. They are on my TBR. But yeah, so that's basically my thoughts about her. I really read one book and I really, really enjoyed it. And I thought the audiobook was actually super fun. So that is my thoughts on Song of a Crimson Flower by Julie C Dao. Another book that caught my attention during this first half of the year, the first couple months of this year, was Rebecca McLaughlin for Nameless Queen. This is another fantasy book that I wound up really enjoying. I love the world building, I love the characters, I love the structure, and I really loved her writing style. I thought that it was another book that was really easy to fall into the world and not feel so overwhelmed by it. It's a book that I'm definitely hoping we get a book 2 from, and it's a book that I would just love to read more by this author in general. I thought that she had a very, very solid voice that I would keep coming back to for more. And then the next book I'm going to chat about is The Stormkeeper's Island by Catherine Doyle. I did have mixed feelings about this book, I'll be a little bit honest, but it's a book that I'm still going to keep going with the series. The highlight of this read was definitely the world building and was definitely the structure. I really loved the story. Just didn't feel as connected to the characters, and it wasn't as engaging as like a Keeper of the Lost Cities or a Unmapped Chronicles. The pacing was a little bit awkward. Again, it's the first book in a series, but it's still one that I'm going to consider reading more of or consider keep going because I did like the characters. I just felt like they weren't as fleshed out. Here are a couple of books that didn't make this list, but I did wind up reading these authors for the first time in 2020. I just want to share them with you. The first author that I'm going to chat about is Keystone, which was by Kat Delaney. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite. It was a mystery thriller, and it just didn't capture my attention as previous mysteries and thrillers do, but I would consider reading book 2 in the future. Another author that I read for the first time was the Go With The Flow authors, which is a graphic novel, which is actually so strong. Lily Williams and Karen Shaniran, they wrote Go With The Flow. I actually wound up really, really liking that book. That should have made this list, honestly. That would have been my number 10 spot. But it was just a book, it's a graphic novel about women's health that I thought that all young girls should read. I thought it was spectacular. So that definitely should have made this list. Sorry about that. Another book that I wound up reading this year by a new author was Hidden Meaning by Elizabeth Adams. This is like a companion series, cozy mysteries. I liked it. It was a little bit religious overtone, a little bit too much religious overtones for me, and I don't think I would read this book series again. It just wasn't one that I really liked. I felt like it was just it relied too much on religion for me to consider reading it again. And the book series are really, really long as well. Another book that was a new author to me was Carrie and the Night of the Forest by Andy Watson. That's a graphic novel, which I actually liked. I didn't love it, but I liked it. What I Carry by Jennifer Longo was another contemporary read that I liked but didn't love. A Match Made in Medity by Nahanje Barpar was a book that I wound up really liking. Just wasn't I didn't like it enough for it to make this list, but I did wind up reading it and I did enjoy it. And I also wound up reading Seven Deadly Shadows by Courtney L. Amina, which was actually a really nice read as well. It just wasn't one that wound up making this list. And We Could Be Heroes by Margaret Finnegan was a middle grade arc that I read recently. So those are all the new authors to me that I wound up reading in 2020. Those are all the new ones as of right now. The ones that the one in the first half of the video were the books that the authors that I will definitely read more from in the future, or book series that really captured my attention. The other ones were just a list of books that I wound up reading in 2020 so far. But let me know in the comments what are some new to you authors that you are really excited for to read more in the upcoming years, or go and tackle their backlist, because I have quite a few. And I'll talk to you later for another video. Bye, guys.